Welcome to this tutorial for the cost input section of the Labor Pricing for a Profit software version 6.0. At this point, we'll be talking about entering equipment data into the software. All of your trucks, all of your trailers, all of your major equipment, typically those things $1,000 or more, are going to be considered equipment. Now, in your profit and loss statement, this data is all accounted for as depreciation. But we know that depreciation deals with what we paid for a piece of equipment several years ago, not what we will pay for it to replace it 2, 3, 4 years in the future. The Labor Pricing for a Profit software is always going to be looking at things from a cash flow perspective and what do you need to put aside today so you can pay cash for a piece of equipment tomorrow. So let's get started. To enter a new piece of equipment, we'll simply go over to the Setup menu on the left-hand toolbar and we're going to click on Costs Input. When we click on that, the cost setup for our business model will open up. On the right hand side, we've got the various costs types that you can see: the equipment, labor, fixed overhead, and so on. We're going to start out with the radio button for the equipment chosen. Now, some of the items, other icons that we have on this particular screen are, first off, anytime we want to enter a new item, we can click on New. Once we get a couple of items set up in the software, we can highlight that particular item and click on Modify if we want to make changes to it. Again, that's for something we've already put in the system. If we have a piece of equipment that we want to delete from our company model, we can highlight it and click on Delete. Or if we've got a couple of items that are very, very similar to each other, let's say we've got two service vans that are almost identical to each other. We can enter the first one and simply click on Duplicate and give the second one a new name, and it will exactly duplicate that first item. It makes entry much, much easier, much quicker. So let's go ahead and enter our first piece of equipment. We're going to go ahead and click on New, and as we do that, the Equipment Replacement Fund setup window is going to open. Under the first item, Equipment Description, we're going to enter in the description for this particular service van. I'll just call it service van number 1. The next option is future or existing purchase. Future would mean that this is a truck that we are going to add to the fleet in the future. It's something that's not currently in the fleet, but we're planning on, 2 years from now, I think I'm going to need to hire another service technician, and so at that point I'm going to have to buy another truck. So I'm going to start planning for that today. That would be a future expense. An existing purchase would be a truck that's already in our fleet that we are going to have to replace at some point in the future. And so at that point we would choose E for existing. So this is an existing service van that we have in our fleet. The year to start. The year to start will always default with the current year. In my particular case, it's 2010. You could change this to 2011. So in other words, I'm not going to start putting money aside for this vehicle until 2011. But it will default to today's date. Next, the additional years of service before replacement. In other words, on this existing piece of equipment, how many more years is this going to last us? If we can get, we think we can get 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, whatever it is out of that truck yet, that's what we want to indicate in here. How long before we're going to need to spend the money to replace this piece of equipment? So I'm going to say that this vehicle will last me 4 more years. You can see immediately that it's telling us, it will calculate that based on our start date and how long it's going to take to replace it, that it's going to put this money aside until December 2014. The next box is the cost to replace, the net cost to replace this vehicle. How much are we going to have to pay to replace this vehicle, in our case, 4 years from now? Now, when we talk about replacement cost of the vehicles, you know what you typically spend for a piece of equipment. If you buy new equipment, this would be the new equipment price. If you typically buy used equipment, you know roughly what you typically pay for a piece of equipment, and this would be your used truck price. Now, if you really don't have any idea, take a look at what you paid for the last one. Add 3% or so per year to the cost of that truck, and that will get you fairly close to what you will be paying 4 years from now. So we're going to say this truck is going to cost us $30,000 to replace. Now, a couple of things are happening here. Number one, again, keep in mind that when we're coming up with this net cost to replace this piece of equipment, we're talking about what is it going to cost to letter it? If you're going to re-letter that truck, that's got to be in that replacement cost. Are you going to put new ladder racks on it? Or are you going to transfer the racks from the old trucks? Are you going to put new shelving inside of it, or are you going to transfer that from the old truck? Any monies that you have to spend on that new truck needs to be in this net cost to replace. That's all part of the cost of replacing that equipment. Now, as soon as we enter in the net cost to replace here, the software is automatically calculating how much money we need to put aside per month. So in this case, in order to have $30,000 4 years from now, we need to put aside $625 per month from now through December of 2014. In the next field, the comments, we can enter in any kind of information here that we want. It's purely for your information. We'll just put John as currently driving this truck. And again, this is purely for your information. You can put anything here that you want. In the lower half, we've got the cost or the equipment cost allocation. In this particular section, we're going to tell the software where is this piece of equipment used? Where does it spend its time? And you can see that we've got the various departments listed here that you set up when you created your company model using the company wizard. So in our case, we've got 3 departments. We've got a service department, an installation department, and a retail store. Well, this particular truck, the person that drives this truck, spends about 3/4 of his time working in the service department and goes and helps out the installation department about 1/4 of his time. So that being the case, we'll start out. It's telling us in the box here, we're looking at the service department. Again, we can see that that is highlighted in gray at the bottom. And we're entering in a percentage. So what percentage of the time does this truck spend in service? We said approximately 75% of its time. We can click on the tab key and we automatically switch to the next department, installation, which we see here. And we spend 25% of its time in the installation department, and it doesn't spend any time in the retail store at all. So we can see under total cost allocated, we've got 100%. We have to allocate a total of 100%. It can't be 95%, it can't be 105%, but a total of 100% of this vehicle, where does it spend its time? Once we have all that information there, we've completed it. We can now click on Accept, and the software will immediately add this item to our list, telling us that it's service van number 1. Cost to replace it is $30,000. That's going to happen 4 years from now. So we're going to put monies aside from 2010 through 2013. Annual cost is $7,500. This truck is available. In other words, we are using it, and we want to select it to be a part of our model today. So that's our first piece of equipment. Now again, at this point in time, if we wanted to modify the piece of equipment, it's already highlighted. We can just click on Modify, and it'll bring up that equipment window again. We can make any changes that we needed to. If another way to modify it, this is standard Windows functionality, we can just double click on that item. We'll also open up that window as well. If we wanted to delete this item, we could simply click on delete, and the highlighted item will be deleted from our software model. And then again, the duplicate function is one of those items that we've added to the software that really makes entering the data much, much quicker. If we've got a second service van that's very similar to this one, we can simply highlight the first one, click on duplicate, and it gives us the ability to copy that first item. So we're going to call the second item service van number 2. Enter in the name for it, and simply click on OK. The software will duplicate it exactly as the first one was. Now, this second service van, let's say that instead of spending 75% of its time in the service department, it actually spends 65% of the time in the service department and 35% of its time in installation. So we can automatically change that. And you know what? This vehicle is not quite going to last us 4 years. We're only going to get 3 years out of that vehicle. So we can simply make those changes, accept it. The software will automatically update the information that we've got on our list. As we have other pieces of equipment, we just continue selecting either new or duplicate to whichever is easier until we have all pieces of equipment entered into the software. That concludes this particular tutorial. Go back to the main menu if you'd like, and we'll cover labor in the next tutorial.